so talented.
Yeah. And I think it's good to have a
It's amazing she could make it.
cool, they're cool.
I work 12-hour days. I never take any time off.
Yeah.
Is Aaron on?
This is the schedule and you're gonna love it.
She'll be on. Or at least she told us.
You know what they say.
In absence of our chair, I'm honored to call our regular Board of Trustee meeting together Wednesday, March 19th. And welcome to everybody. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. Last day of winter. Tomorrow's official day of spring. And this is a great way to welcome in our spring. So I'm glad that you're all here. Shall we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Trustee Williams, would you mind leading us?
Aye.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Ms. Henning, would you please call the roll call?
Yes, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Do we have anybody at present by Zoom for the record? Not yet. Our next item for our agenda is additions and deletions for the agenda today. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as we for the regular GCCD board meeting today?
I so move.
There's been a motion by trustee Anderson, followed by a second from trustee Day to approve the agenda for the regular GCCD board. Onto the consent agenda, which contains the minutes. Oh, sorry. There's some detail. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so moved. Now we can move on. Onto the approval of the consent agenda, which will contain the minutes of our last meeting, which was February 19th.
I'll make a motion to pull the minutes for the last meeting off separate
Okay,
to make some changes to it.
okay, so you would like to pull the meeting minutes off?
Mhm.
Do we have executive session meeting minutes that are contained in the consent agenda?
Yes.
Along with the staffing report and our February 2025 financials. Trustee Smith has moved to pull the minutes from our last meeting. Is there a second? Okay, thank you, trustee Palmer. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay,
Do you want to approve the consent agenda?
so we'll approve the, so we'll move on to approve the, well, we will need a motion.
Vice Chair,
Yes,
we're going to make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the removal of our minutes.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, trustee Palmer, followed by trustee Anderson, has moved to approve the consent agenda with the absence of the regular board minute meetings. Is there a discussion? Discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye,
Aye.
and those opposed say nay. Okay, so moved. Back to the discussion regarding the minutes of the regular Board of Trustees meetings for February 19th. Dr. Robert.
Vice Chair McGrath, Vice Chair Wasserman. See, I don't just do it to the former chair and the current chair. We do need to add to those present at the meeting. Legal counsel Horning was in attendance, so his name needs to be added to those in attendance, as well as Angie Laxo as a guest. And that's on page 1. On page 7, I believe it is. Nope, sorry, page 5 of the agenda of the minutes under new business. Under item A, we just need to remove the words fill in. I believe that was a notation that Ellie had to make sure she went back and added some information, but it just needs to be struck.
Does anybody else have any additional corrections?
I move to approve the minutes of the last meeting as corrected.
Is there a second? Okay. Trustee Anderson, followed by trustee Day. I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes with the proposed revisions. Is there any discussion? I just want to make sure that trustee Palmer, you're okay with the containment of that, if there was anything that you felt like needed to be added. Okay, all right. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. On to the good of the district. Good news to share from the trustees.
I just want to thank everyone who is involved in our busy weekend of sports. I had the opportunity to thank the facilities crew. They were meeting, we were hanging the art pieces, so I took the opportunity to thank them for all the work they did in Pronghorn Center during the basketball tournament, which was a lot of work. But I also want to thank the members of the Booster Club who put in a lot of time and energy in helping take tickets and fill things and do all of the things that they do. And I don't know how we can thank them as a group. I think they deserve great kudos for helping the college look wonderful through the rodeo and the tournament.
On the tail end of the same topic, I just really believe that our AD did an outstanding job
Yes.
at the tournament, the conduct, the sportsmanship that was displayed on everyone's behalf. I really appreciated Ms. Raybuck and how she pulled in our youth into the very cute games and everything that they had. Those younger members or children of our community were so engaged and they had such a fun time that was equally fun to watch. So I would also like to extend a very heartfelt thank you to the AD, because as I personally know, ADs, it's a lot of hours that they're putting in, and she made it very special. So
And Vice Chair Wasserberger, if I can add to your.
Absolutely.
Congratulations. I'd like to also thank Maggie Longo, our Executive Director of Marketing and Strategic Communications. She created all the collateral. She created the logo for the tournament. She created the brochures and all the print material and website material that went along with the District 9 tournament. I think it's important to note that the Energy City Voices were present at every competition to sing the national anthem, both in the basketball arena, but also out at the rodeo. And so we're very lucky to have that group and their willingness to step in to take care of that important task. So it was a very successful weekend with a heartbreaking loss on Saturday, but boy, we cannot not say that. So they've done a phenomenal job as have our coaches.
And before we go on, let's give a round of applause to Maggie, who actually is here. So we appreciate what you do.
Chairperson, I just would add, I've had several out of town parents at the rodeo ask about the ECV. They thought that was one of the highlights of the day. So kudos to Dennis and his crew.
Absolutely, but there's a lot of extensions on behalf of this whole campus that we need to pay forward with all those activities. Other good news to share.
Well, speaking of basketball, not only was our college very successful, but our high school team were very successful. The Camels won the state tournament for A boys. The Camel girls got third, and Thunder Basin boys got fourth. So that was well represented this past weekend in the game of basketball.
And we shouldn't forget the Lady Pronghorns who played here in Nebraska, won their first game and unfortunately lost the second, but they played well.
And then I got to do hip hip hooray for my grandson. I was back in my Quantico, and FBI graduated last Friday.
Wow.
And today's his first day as an FBI agent. working. So, and he's stationed in Casper.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Good.
Yeah.
I know we're not gonna break the law.
That is wonderful, Trustee. Any other good news to share? I guess I want to talk about the real sport of wrestling real quick and grandsons, but our 9-year-old grandson, Weston, closed out the season for Nebraska State and won 7th in a very, very tough bracket. He's quite the little scrapper, and his play certainly doesn't show his abilities and his heart. And then our youngest grandson, his little brother, Wasey, who was a whopping 4-year-old, weighing in at 33 pounds, came away with a 3rd place medal. And this is his first year of wrestling, and he's used to getting trampled by his siblings. So this kid is super tough. Yeah, he's gonna do great things too. So.
Well, if we're bragging on grandkids, my 10-year-old grandson sang last weekend at the National Children's Choir, which was like 200 and some grade students who were there, chosen by audition. And it was a lovely concert, and she had a great time in Chicago, staying at the Palmer House, which is a very fancy hotel. So
Yes.
she thought that was pretty awesome.
No
Excellent.
relation, but it is a nice place to stay.
Yeah, darn it.
What the name of it?
Well, we're all very blessed. So thank you for sharing those personal highlights as we give up our time to this amazing college. Dr. Oberlander, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Oh, well, I'm always happy to brag about my grandbaby, who is now 1 month old, who has celebrated and will be celebrated again this weekend. So, but we also had our youngest daughter, Cassie, was here for the weekend to celebrate her 21st birthday and spent a lot of time in the arenas with us. And yeah, it's just a fun time right now for us in our family and all the changes that are happening. So, but Maverick is doing very well. She does not like tummy time, as her mother has told me. So
Well,
good stuff.
congratulations on the updates. Okay, on to organizational reports, legislative update. I believe that we were going to have Erin Taylor join us by Zoom, but so far is not. Well, we can always hop back to her. So we'll move on to our president's report.
Thank you, Vice Chair Wasserberger, and I have sent a message to Erin reminding her and asking her if she's able to join. So, and I'll go over some of what we're working on also with the legislative, as the legislative session has wrapped up. But first, I want to tell you, we have selected a commencement speaker for commencement 2025. And so I'm pleased to tell you that Mr. Scott Cargill is going to be our commencement speaker. Scott has a very phenomenal background. And I look forward to him sharing his story and how he has persevered and arrived at where he is in his life. And of course, he was for several years the manager at White's Frontier Motors. And of course, in 2021, he was named Wyoming Dealer of the Year by Time Magazine. He recently retired in 2024, but continues to be active in the Gillette Booster Club. He served on the Gillette College Foundation, and he and his wife are certainly embedded in our community and have done some phenomenal things. But I'm excited for him to share his story with our students. So selecting commencement speaker is never easy. And I always look to try and find somebody who first of all, if they're from our community, but also how their own story can inspire our graduates as they move on to the next phase of their life. So we'll look forward to welcoming him to the commencement stage. We also have just a few exciting announcements. As you saw in the staffing report on the consent agenda, you saw that the head men's soccer coach and the dean of student affairs was still open. Those positions are now closed. We do have accepted offers. And so our dean of student affairs is Dr. Kimberly Lemon. We're excited to welcome her here. And Dr. Lemon comes to us from, let me get her resume up in front of me. She comes to us from Westchester University in Westchester, Pennsylvania. And she has served as executive director of community standards and student initiatives, She has a very strong background in Title IX work, Director of Community Standards, Assistant Director of Community Standards, so student conduct and training assistant. So she's going to be very instrumental and certainly a good member to add to our team. So she's not going to arrive permanently until August, but Dr. Spriggs is working with her to bring her in about 10 hours a week to begin working remotely with our staff to begin familiar. We had hoped she could join us at the HLC conference, but unfortunately she's not available to do that. But she'll certainly be instrumental to that process as we onboard her and we welcome her not only to the campus, but to our community. So when she arrives, we will certainly bring her for introductions. And then we have hired and have received an acceptance on our men's soccer coach position. And Mr. Spencer Durfee, did I say that correctly? Durfee? Is joining us and he will arrive April 7th to begin working with our men's soccer. So he's coming to us from New Mexico State University, also has experience with Walrus men's soccer as an assistant coach and recruitment lead. But most importantly, he's from this area. He comes to us, I grew up in Buffalo, so he's ready to come home and we're excited for him to take the pitch and start working with our athletes. So we'll welcome him here in a couple of weeks to Gillette College. So those were two important hires that we're certainly glad to have under our belt. And so to be brief with my report, just a couple of other items. We certainly are still following the conversation on the tuition waivers. There is no new additional information to share other than we continue to follow the conversation at the state level. And we have an executive council meeting, which are the presidents of the community colleges tomorrow morning. And I have not seen the agenda, so I'm not sure if it's on the agenda for our conversation tomorrow. But if there's any new news to share, I'll certainly make sure you get that information at our next meeting. And then I do want to just do some highlights of at the end of the legislative session. And certainly if Erin jumps on, I'll welcome her into the conversation as well. So yesterday, the vice presidents and myself met with legal counsel just to review the new legislation that's probably going to be most impactful for us. Of course, we have quite a few tax bills, tax relief bills, and Vice President Larson will speak about that in her report. But the ones that, of course, we're going to focus on are those that are going to require some updated policy for us to take a look at. And so we know that we have House Bill 172, which is the repeal of the gun-free zone. That work has already started. We have the risk managers from across the colleges. In fact, they're probably meeting right now to begin developing policy that meets the definition, but we also will have a chance to look at that. Legal counsel Horning is also instrumental in looking at that. What role do the trustees have? What have you been given as delegated authority to set for rules and policies? And so you'll have those, the governance committee will certainly have those before the May meeting, but that law goes into effect on July 1. So we have to have policy to you by May for your first reading, June for second reading. Prior to that, we'll make sure that legal counsel reviews, but also the board committee. So some of those, and certainly Dave jump in, some of those pieces we need to review are where guns are allowable, concealed carry is allowable on campus, meaning we have buildings that have explosive material in them, our chemistry labs in this building. How are we going to secure those guns in the residence halls? What does that look like? So we need to get those rules and those policies and procedures developed for Gillette Community College. But we should have something here within the next 2 weeks to begin looking at. Trustee Palmer? Anything to add? Okay, I just didn't know if you had a question or.
No, it's just a glazed look I have. That's.
I just didn't want to skip over.
Will there be adjustments to residence halls so that students can request to not be in a room with someone who has a gun?
You know, we had a high level conversation about that and we have not specifically had that conversation, that if there's a student who doesn't want to share a room with somebody who has it concealed. We did talk about, because the law still says you have to be 21 or older, do we then have our 21-year-olds live in Tanner Village? And I-Hall is just 18, 19, 20-year-olds. So those are some of the high level conversations we've had at this point, but certainly nothing specific yet as that policy work that's out and continues to come forward. And we understand what the legislation clearly says. So, but that one certainly is one that is getting some significant attention right now by all the risk managers across all the colleges.
President Overlander, will we be needing then to purchase safes or anything like that? And would that be part of our, you know, do we have that? I'm sure we have some allowance in the budget for that, but just costing wise, what's the impact on us?
Yeah, Vice Chair Wasserberger, that is absolutely something that we're looking into. I don't have a cost. I don't think Vice President Larson has one either. Greg Bush, our risk manager, is certainly looking into that. What type of safes do we have to have? Do we have to equip every room with a safe? Do we have to have removable safes? All of those pieces are still coming in, but yeah, there will be a budget impact.
And what kind of support for our faculty? I don't know this to be true at all, but I bet I would guess maybe there's some angst around surrounding that. So how best can we support our faculty and feel like they're heard, they get input?
Absolutely. So Vice Chair Wasserberger, we started meeting with the faculty and staff when we knew that this bill was coming. It was being told last year by the governor. So this bill made it through last session. It was vetoed and we knew it was coming back. So before the session even began, we had meetings with each individual department, with their supervisors, myself and our risk managers to inform them, here's what's coming. We expect this to pass. We don't expect the governor to. So as a follow-up to that, now our risk manager is beginning to develop training. And I think those launch here right after spring break. So each department will have training that they will go through with our risk manager from a safety perspective and make sure that they understand what resources are available to them. So by and large, I mean, certainly it's concerning, more concerning to some faculty and staff than other faculty and staff. But by and large, the faculty and staff know that they're supported. They know that we're working to make sure that they still have a learning environment for them. And
Thank you. Thank you for consideration for our campus.
absolutely.
Does this take get all types of guns?
I am not able to answer that, Mr. Chair, Trustee Williams. You just caught me off guard with that question. Legal counsel, what is your take after you've reviewed? It has to be concealed. It has to be a concealed weapon. So it would be really hard to conceal a rifle.
May I?
Mr. Ryan, yes, please.
I guess the preliminary answer would be that long guns are potentially treated differently than, let's just call it handguns. Handguns is what President Overlander was just addressing. Long guns are not specifically addressed within the new legislation. So the status quo with respect to rifles, long guns is same as it was before, which is currently those, you can carry those on your campus right now. I guess what I would say is that the way that the new concealed carry requirements are implemented may, I guess, affect treatment of long guns tangentially. There's still some analysis to be done to see how it might play out for purposes of the president making a recommendation to the board. How's that for a non-answer? I apologize, but all kidding aside, it's still, you have to digest it, see what's required, what you're required to do, what you're allowed to do, and then we'll see what you have remaining. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. And I would say that about all these bills that I'm going to bring to your attention, we're still digesting it. We're still vetting through the language. Because as you know, one word in a bill can change what we see as the definition. So just a couple other bills that we're needing some further direction on and deciding whether or not we need policy. So House Bill 32 is the What is a Woman Act, requires that male and female be used when identifying their sex collection. Well, we don't mandatorily collect that information. It's all optional. But if a student does choose to disclose their sex, male or female, then what is the documentation that we also need to collect? So we need some further direction on how to enforce this and what's the definition of mandatory collection. We do collect information, a lot of demographic information at the local level, but also once we start reporting iPads, which is a federal report, there's demographic information that we report. So again, more further clarification is going to be needed on that. Again, Vice President Larson is going to talk about tax relief bills. There's House Bill 33, which is vehicle sales and use tax distribution, which is distributing some of the general fund to the highway fund. There was the Hathaway Amendment, which is House Bill 36. How the Hathaway Scholarship Amendments. This allows Hathaway to be used for certificate level work. It passed, the governor vetoed it, the veto was overridden. So again, this will fall within our financial aid and registrars, but I suspect there's going to have to be some new administrative rules written on how this is used, and I suspect those have come from the state and those who are responsible for administering the Hathaway. Age verification, House Bill 43, age verification for websites with harmful material. We at Gillette College don't offer harmful material on our websites. We offer academic content. And so we're going to continue to vet through this because what it requires is that you have to have age verification on your platforms. Now, we have concurrent and dual enrollment students who need access to academic material. So we again are working with our partners across the state and making sure we're vetting this out correctly. There will be, if we have to put a website verification on this, age verification, there will be a cost to the institution. So again, vetting this through, making sure that we understand that does this apply to academic post-secondary libraries. Let's see. House Bill 72, protecting privacy in public spaces. This is one of the restroom and sleeping and locker room facilities. At Gillette College, we have designated restrooms for both men and women. We do have non-specified restroom facilities. We do have locker rooms that are specified for men and women. We have never allowed co-ed housing in the same room in our residence halls. Those are all separate. So we need to take a look again at this. Again, do we need to create policy? I don't think so. One of the questions that came up, we do have male coaches that coach female teams. How do we make sure that when those coaches are entering the locker room, the women know that they're coming in, they're ready to come in. So that's House Bill 72.
Do we have, I know in the main building, we have a unisex bathroom. Do we have those in the other buildings?
We went through this yesterday, or when we met earlier this week. This building does not. Although we do have single stall restrooms, one designated men, one designated women in this building. We could turn those into undesignated restrooms. We could. We do have unisex restrooms in the Pronghorn Center. I think there's one or two, and those could be designated as family restrooms as well. So, but otherwise we do have separate facilities for men and women across the campus. So. House Bill 86, public property and building amendments. This is something our director of facilities, Marty Wolf, will have to get his head wrapped around. It's all capital construction, maintenance, changing rules to that process. House Bill 147, prohibition of institutional discrimination. This is the DEI. There were two DEI bills that passed. This is the one that did not get vetoed by the governor, and the one that did get vetoed by the governor was a Senate file bill, and it did not get the votes needed to overrule. We are reviewing our policies and procedures. We don't within our academic curriculum have any required courses that would fit any of these definitions. We don't have any program that would fit these definitions. We don't do any type of mandatory training other than the non-discrimination training that's required. But we will review. Our HR director, Chantel Moore, is going through our policy and procedure to ensure compliance with this law. We talked about House Bill 172, the repeal of gun-free zones. House Bill 279, property tax exemptions. Vice President Larson will talk about the potential impact. Senate File 44 is the Fairness in Sports Intercollegiate Athletics. This is the bill that talks about transgender students, men and women participating in sports. We will have to probably write a policy for this. The athletic director is gathering sample policies that we'll get ready to bring forward. So the bill talks about prohibits male students in a mixed co-ed sex competition from holding. I mean, you can read, I don't think I need to go detail by detail, but we will need to likely have a policy for that. Let's see. Again, tax bills. There is Senate File 74, immunity for drug overdose reporting, which allows for immunity if we have somebody on campus who has overdosed on drugs and we report that. If you're also using, you have immunity. right? So it's a life-saving type of bill. I don't know that we need policy for that, but we'll review what's in our current policy. Senate File 77, compelled speech is not free speech. This is the pronoun bill. We don't require, nor have we ever required employees to use their preferred pronouns, nor would we ever do that. Again, HR is looking at policy and Dr. Spriggs will review student handbook. Senate File 81 is property tax. Senate File 81, Senate File 103 was the other DEI bill that was passed. The governor vetoed, was not overridden. Senate File 121 is the rodeo license plate. So y'all should go support and buy rodeo license plates to support our rodeo team, which will be great. Those are probably the highlights of what we're looking at as a deep dive. And of course, there could be others that we have missed, but by and large, that's the high level review. And if Erin's able to join us at some point, I'm sure she can add some flavor to what I've shared today. With that, do you have any questions? It's a lot to process
Sure.
after.
I
we
just
went
have
through
a
this.
statement on the license plate. That will be all proceeds to be divided between the 8 community colleges and the university. No one gets a higher priority. Yes, you can buy a license.
Go find it. It'll be a license plate. It'll be great.
Thank you,
So
trustees.
we'll keep you updated. The governance, the board governance, committee will have to probably start meeting late next month so we can start reviewing these policies as they come forward. So any questions?
Do any of the trustees have any questions for Dr. Overland? Trustee Palmer?
Just an observation. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to anyway. I'm just so intrigued that our members of our legislature had so much time to be able to pass some of this legislation. I'll leave it at that.
Nice.
As a reminder, we do have the legislative event coming up, the Chamber of Commerce event, which takes place next week on the 27th. It's at the Chamber of Commerce starting at 6:30 a.m. It should be a good session. I've seen the questions that are going to be asked, so those will be, it'll be a good session. So if you are going, I think you have already responded. If you're going, we'll give an RSVP. If you haven't, you wish to attend, let us know.
Hopefully all the trustees will think about that being present. Thank you, President Overlander, for your report. Unfortunately, we don't have our college advisory representative of Mr. Scott Durgan. So we'll move on then to our Vice President, Ann Larson, to give us an update.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Wasserberger and trustees. Thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about what my teams have been doing over the past 6 months. I'll start with facilities. They are currently in the process of a build out at the road and bridge, converting space to a 900 square foot classroom area so that they can train CDL students while they're over there. That's funded by WIP, so we're excited to get underway with that. A contract has been reviewed by legal and signed to begin the work in the Pronghorn Center to change the storage space up there to Energy City Voices training and meeting and offices area. Work on the boiler room at I Hall, kind of loud, will start mid-May and conclude in early July. For the record, facilities has completed 5,227 work orders in the last 12 months. 2,200 of those are reactive work orders, so someone gets into the system and opens a request. 2,900 of them are preventative maintenance, so almost 3,000 preventative maintenance work orders. For the math, that's 14 work orders per square foot of space over the last 12 months. That's a lot. So they've been busy. Also significant is 90% of the reactive work orders are completed in less than 1 week and the preventative maintenance within a month. So some KPIs for them to continue to work on, but so far doing a great job. Risk management, Greg Bush is scheduled a tabletop exercise for this June. We have one every year, so looking forward to that. Greg has been working diligently with Alertus and Regroup. These are our notification systems to just kind of customize and make sure the people who need to are ready to push send in a very urgent situation, and make sure the people receiving the messages are getting a message that's urgent and yet concise and understandable. So making some changes to those compared to how that was set up previously. He has a couple initiatives going on right now that will involve training staff and faculty this summer and this fall to handle crisis situations. Various trainings, different emergency scenarios, so we look forward to that. He is traveling in Indiana in April to complete a week of Clery training. Just a reminder, the Clery Act is what requires all colleges to report any, what is it?
Campus crime.
Crime, thank you, that's the word I'm looking for. Crime within a mile of the campus radius. And he's meeting today, like President Overlander said, with the other 7 colleges to discuss the new procedures in response to concealed carry legislation. Human resources have been very busy. This past month, they fully implemented an applicant tracking system called NeoEd. We're very excited to get that rolling. They've done a good job getting that going. It's going to enable a person applying for a job here at Gillette College to kind of be managed along the way electronically, rather than everyone trying to, manage schedules and put paper documents through the system. It'll all be electronic. So we really think it's going to enhance the experience for applicants. So we're very excited about that. As well, it'll definitely provide some efficiencies for the HR department. Nicole Wolf, our HR assistant, is working towards her SHRM certification, Society for Human Resource Management. She sits for that test in May. Our HR director, Chantel Moore, has completed all the training for Title IX coordinator and investigator designations, and also has been recently elected to the Powder River Basin SHRM group chapter, I should say. So for her. They continue to review revisions of the employee handbook, as well as some of our other procedures based on federal legislation that's been changing. IT and many of our other departments actually have been busy with the consultant that the Wyoming College Commission has hired to issue an RFP for our next computing and accounting system. This is either going to replace or determine that we continue with colleague. But it's been a lot of work and a lot of time for not only IT, but all of our departments to kind of sit with these consultants and talk about what's important in an RFP. Also has involved all the other colleges. So a lot of time and a lot of people involved in that. Last week, we completed our first penetration testing in IT. We've hired a firm to kind of analyze our security, our cybersecurity, and peck away and see if they can get in different places and find out our weaknesses. So we're excited about that, and we find out next week the results of that test. Business office, our new controller is doing very well, jumping into colleague and learning the system. Samantha Rankin continues to work on budget. We have our first hearings next week with the budget manager, so we'll meet with them and finally get some numbers to put together. Excited about that, and we look forward to sharing those numbers with the finance committee in late April. Speaking of budget, some estimates on revenue reduction based on legislation. I'm just going to talk about the property tax, anything that affects revenue. So there are only 3 that I kind of want to highlight. The first one is Senate File 69, which became Enrolled Act 60. It exempts the first 1 million of residential property tax up to 25%. I'm going to assume 100% impact of this because only 62 homes in Campbell County are valued at above $1 million. So most everyone will have the opportunity to get 25% reduction. Our residential real estate tax represents 7.23% of our mill. So that all equates to around 89,000 per mill. So 3 mills, roughly 267,000 if we get to that point. House Bill 39, Enrolled Act 29, adjusts the ability to qualify for a tax refund. So this one's kind of hard to determine. because we don't really know who's gonna apply for a tax refund and which refund they're gonna be eligible for. But it does say that if your household is making less than 145% of the median household for the county, then you qualify for the refunds. Roughly 50% of the households, based on my conversation with Mr. Troy Clements and some Googling, roughly half the people will apply. I just assumed 25% tax cut, so that'll work out to be about a $45,000 per mill. I'm understanding that right. The last was a decrease in severance tax on coal from 6.5 to 6.0. So 0.5% of the coal portion of our mill works out to about $10,000 per mill. So that's what I got. Anybody have any questions?
Congratulations on to your whole team.
Thank you.
What they've done and obviously the accomplishments and
Mhm.
wish them good luck, the individuals for their certification.
Thank you. Yeah.
And obviously, this meeting is laden with a lot of the legislative impacts, so we appreciate your analysis on converting that for us and taking it into budgetary considerations.
Thank you.
Trustee Palmer.
Chair Westberger. Director Larson, the tax bills are not cumulative, correct?
Correct.
So if you're a property owner, you can't have one, two, three.
Correct.
One.
I think that was actually one of the new pieces of legislation they implemented, that they found that people were making money. So now they're gonna go through and make sure you only get what you.
Okay. And are these, any of these, it seems like the one on the long-term residence, like that one was sunsetted. Are these other ones sunsetted, like the one on the 25%?
I am not I'm not sure about a sunset on the 25% one.
On SF 69, there is no backfill or sunset included in the act.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Trustee Anderson.
Vice Chair Wasserberger, Vice President Larson. We approved a work order tracking system, something a while back. Has that been implemented where somebody came in and did everything?
Yes, Vice Chair Wasserberger and Trustee Anderson, that's where I got those numbers from per square foot. So it's actually really cool. We rolled it out about roughly, I don't know, 9 or 10, 12 months ago. And people can just log in to the bridge and enter a work order. And then the system obviously tracks everything. And we've enhanced it this past quarter, I guess, to but enable us to track assets as well, and track the campus and every aspect of the campus. So that's where they got the square footage numbers, and you just click analyze and it just gives you all these metrics. So it's really pretty cool. Yeah.
Sounds like good use of our dollars. So thank you for following up with that.
I would say so.
Yeah, and again, thank you to our operations staff. I mean, that is a lot of maintenance. Does this system also track the man hours so we can analyze that we have enough employees doing all this work?
Yes, Trustee Wasserberger, it will analyze by person and by it'll track man hours. Yes. So yeah, we can give you some metrics on that too next time.
Vice Chair Wasserberger, the bill that, it's House Bill 279 is the property tax exemptions order of application. And it leaves it up to the Department of Revenue to make those decisions on the order of application of exemptions.
Comment.
Yes.
If my math, I'm not good. So it's close to like $500,000 to us at least, right? What the
Depending on how
legislation
many mills we assess, yes.
Well, good luck.
Well, thank you very much.
That's why you're the number person and not me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate the work that you do. And so thank you. Yeah, nice report, comprehensive. We do not have our faculty senate here. I hope that they're actually enjoying spring break. But I've asked Dr. Oberlander to please read for our audience and recording our written report, which they have provided us.
Vice Chair Wasserberger, Trustees, Jared Vance is the president of the Faculty Senate, and it is spring break, so he is away from campus enjoying some rest and relaxation before the final push to the end of the semester. So from Faculty Senate, we will have our second meeting of the semester, the 25th of this month, which is March. We are currently working on faculty load equity and put together a rough draft that faculty is reviewing and will submit for feedback this coming meeting. Jared Vance will draft a letter of support for the NZ building and submit that to the Faculty Senate for review, which I can also submit to Cabinet for input. We'll also start looking at the program development and elimination procedure in more depth in this meeting. One change we have made in the Senate, we'll review meeting minutes and vote to approve them by the end of the week of said meeting, so they can be posted to teams and available to faculty sooner in hopes of being more efficient in communication. And that was submitted by Jared Vance.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, on to old business, strategic planning update from Dr. Barry Spriggs. Welcome you to the podium and look forward to your update.
Vice Chair Wassenberger, trustees. I will be calling Roger up here just so I know he's trying to hide still. But as you know, the strategic plan is a living document. Even though we formally review it, we continuously make adjustments as we're going along based on budget, based on resources, based on the needs, as well as the mission of the institution. So we want to make sure that the plan continues to be flexible in order to address the multiple constituency groups that we actually have. If you can recall, we have 4 major priorities. With those priorities, we had strategy, tactics, but we landed with now what we call key performance indicators or KPIs. Those 4 priorities are student-centered experiences, ensuring that those support services that we actually have and the pathways and the multiple pathways that our students take, that we're flexible enough to adjust to the multiple pathways. So, you know, some of the things that we have done, of course, our tutoring has been embedded with multiple programs now, nursing, which is very hard to find people to do that as an example. The examination, I know both talked about FYE in here before, the first year experience, counseling, and really separate on some of these areas. Educational excellence, and a lot of this has to do with our professional development and training development of our faculty, but also our assessment, our program review, using Lightcast as an example to really examine our programs. Open educational resources. All of that falls within that arena. Thirdly, enhanced community partnerships, and we continuously make our advisory boards very important and embed it within any type of program development discussions, as well as our career fairs. And then finally, institutional advancement, and that's all about sustainability in the multiple aspects of such. So, you know, as you know, one of the major things with our budget process is tying it into the strategic plan. Also looking at different populations, looking at modes of delivery or evening weekends as an example, reaching out with the paraprofessionals, as I mentioned before, as well as our investment, as you may know, with the budget in professional development. So those are some of the indicators, but I will yield, of course, Roger has been instrumental in not only collecting the data to really examine it, but taking that operational plan and really incorporating those key performance indicators. So I'm going to yield to him on some of the data and some of the data that was utilized to address these KPIs, as well as some of the projections. So Roger, if you could join. I know you were trying to.
Thank you, Dr. Spriggs. Vice Chair Wassenberger, trustees, what we did is we broke it down, and Ella, if you want to go ahead and move forward. We looked at the different strategic priorities, and we identified what we call key performance indicators. And so today we're just going to share a few of those with you. And as Dr. Spriggs said, as we go through this, there'll be other indicators that we'll add across campus. And so, go ahead, Ellie. So this one is around student enrollment. And so what we are sharing today are really around strategic priority one. And the metrics that we're looking at are very similar to what the state does. And one of the reasons we're doing that is that so as we move down the road, we can compare our data to the other community colleges. So we're looking at apples to apples and that we're using the same metric and methodologies. And so our baseline on this graph here was for academic year 24. We did not go with academic year 23 just because of some of the issues with the data. And I worked closely with the commission and we just had some gremlins, for lack of a better term, in the data. And we weren't really confident in that academic year 23 enrollment data. And so we established the baseline, as you can see in the graph, with a growth indicator of 3% per year. And so over a 5-year time frame from 23 through the end of academic year 28, our goal is to grow our enrollment 3% annually. This is frozen data. It's a collection of summer, fall, spring. And so that data is usually gathered, analyzed, and validated the subsequent fall. And so once the commission validates and reports that, we're able to pull that data so that we're making sure that those numbers are consistent and accurate. As you can see, our goal of a 3% growth, we'll look at this next fall once all of the data is in academic year 25. That report normally comes out in about October and November. These are unduplicated counts. And so a student that is enrolled in any of those 3 semesters is only counted once. There's not a duplication. So this is one of our first key performance indicators for strategic priority 1 around enrollment. The next indicator that we are looking at, Ellie, thank you, is retention. And so we're looking at fall to fall retention. And basically we're looking at students by cohort that enroll in the fall semester and are they there the next subsequent fall semester. And so the graph illustrates our baseline of what those numbers were in academic year 23. The trend lines give you our targets. The 2 in red are actual numbers that we have from last year. So you can see that our part-time students exceeded what our 24 targets were, and our full-time were a little bit below that target. Okay, these are degree-seeking, first-time, part-time, full-time students. So any student that is considered degree-seeking. And so when you look at the academic year 23, those are students that started in the fall of 22. The students in the red are students that started in the fall of 23. So it's always a lag of those numbers. Okay? Our goal is to increase this 3% annually, which is an aggressive retention goal. Okay, but we know, and many times it costs less to retain than recruit a student. So these are really, really important. We're going to be able to compare this with other community colleges. And currently we're working on the same methodology to be able to look at this by program. So we're able to look at both our full-time and part-time students and see what those trend lines are by program, get a little bit more granular. The next slide is around persistence. Persistence is basically the same definition as retention, other than is students are enrolled the subsequent semester at any institution. So when we look at those numbers, the baseline in 2023, that illustrates the students in the fall of 22 that enrolled that next fall in either Gillette College or another institution. Okay, so they're continuing in higher ed. So, yes.
Mr. Humphries, so just to clarify, in any institution, anywhere in the world, or?
Vice Chair Wassenberger, anywhere in the United States where the data is pulled from the clearinghouse.
Okay.
Yeah, so once they're in the system, the clearinghouse tracks where students go. Okay, great question. Okay, so our goal here is to grow this by 2% annually. You can see that our full-time students exceeded this by, I believe, 16%. What our targets were for 24. Our part-time were a little less than what our target is. Some of those nuances with persistence, with part-time, many of those we have to dig in are some certificate students. So if they complete and they don't enroll the next fall, they do count against you.
Vice Chair Wasserberger?
Absolutely.
How does, I'm sorry, go ahead, trustee.
No.
How do dual and concurrent enrollment fit into that part-time?
Vice Chair Wasserberger, President Oberlander, they do not. These are only degree-seeking students.
Thank you.
Okay.
Trustee Palmer?
Thank you, Vice Chair. So quick question. So back to the previous one, it had to do with continuing retention. Go back up here again. So the retention, and that was by degree seeking.
Correct.
Does that also include certificate?
Vice Chair Wasserberger, Trustee Palmer, yes, it does. Anything that is deemed as a degree, a certificate, an AA, an AAS, an AA.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions? Thank you.
Our fourth slide is around completion. And this is looking at, and this gets sometimes a little bit complicated. When you look at academic year 23, the light blue, those are students that began in the fall of 2020, that cohort of students. So of that cohort of students that were first-time, full-time degree-seeking students, 43% of those students completed within 150%. So once they started, and the completion metric is 150% or basically 6 semesters. And as you can see, our goal over time is to grow that by 3%. So we'll look next fall at academic year 24. Those will be students that began in the fall of academic year 21. And so when we look at these numbers, it gives us an opportunity to compare to other community colleges. When we do drill down by program, we'll look and expand that by 100%, 150, 200%, and 200% plus. But just for comparative data, when we look at other institutions, we're using the same metric.
Vice Chair Wasserberger? No, may I ask a question?
Oh. No. Yes, of course you may. I'm sorry.
Maybe just a clarification for the trustees. Why is the 150% important?
Vice Chair Wasserberger, President Oberlander, that is, the 150% is what is deemed and is I guess, a measure or a norm that they should complete within 150%, up to 150%. Some students complete further or sooner within 100%. Also, it's really tied around financial aid. You can only collect so much financial aid over so many semesters. So I believe in a 2-year institution, that gives you 6 years. At a 4-year institution, I believe that is, I didn't think of my math right now. I think it's around 12 semesters. I believe. It's been a while since I was looked at that data.
So
But
just to clarify, if we have an associate of science or an associate of applied science, it's a 4 semester, it would be 6 semesters, not years, right?
correct.
So
Correct.
6 semesters.
Yep. Okay.
Trustee Palmer?
I asked another question.
Absolutely.
Sure. So the KPIs, the 3%, I think you had 3 and 3%, 1 and 2%. Are those numbers we came up with, or is that tied to the Lima Community College Commission? Is that the number they have in their database that they want to see community colleges increasing by? How did we arrive at the 3s and the 2s?
Vice Chair Wasserberger, Trustee Palmer, we utilize those from the strategic document that Dr. Spriggs and the campus had developed, and we modified some of those where we felt were comparable targets. The commission does not set these in terms of increases. These are more internal markers that we've chosen.
And do you know, are we comparable to the other community colleges in the state with this type of growth?
Vice Chair Wasserberger, Trustee Palmer, I'm familiar with my former institution and a few of the others. These are very comparable. And from nationwide, when we look at other institutions, most of these are somewhere between 2 to 5%. 5% is really pushing a very aggressive threshold.
Thank you for that. And I think it's important. Remember, these are cumulative. So it's 3% annually.
Yes,
And so it's a cumulative over those 5 years.
correct. So over a 5-year period, we're looking at a 15% growth metric, which is an aggressive metric, which is a good metric. But it's aggressive.
Thank you.
Yes. Our last one is around the placement rates with graduates in the workforce. This data comes from the Wyoming Community College Commission. I want to just put a little bit of a caveat with this. This is not a huge sample size that's collected by the commission, but it is a survey that they do with all graduates from community colleges in Wyoming. I believe their survey percentage was the return was about a 21%, and which is sort of at the bottom threshold of a survey. But this gives you an idea of the employment status of our students. So our baseline for this, and this metric may change as we may choose a different metric, but this gives us at least a starting point with when we look at employment status of our graduates. And so the goal here is to increase this by 3%. It looks at 2 metrics: students that are employed 40 hours or part-time. It does not break it down by their specific major or discipline, but it does give you an idea, are they employed? The baseline was established for academic year 23, and as you can see, the academic year, the actual in red, we met or exceeded what we felt would be a target for those. This is one that we'll watch, and if we are able to get a more reliable measure that can drill down by discipline or their degree, we may replace this, but it does give us a starting point.
Vice Chair Wasserberger.
Absolutely.
Trustees, as you may call them, certainly Trustee Palmer, when we had our original interview with the Higher Learning Commission for our application, this was an area that they pointed out. What are you doing for career services? If you recall in our mission, we talk about that we're training the workforce. We have to be able to prove that, right? So a priority for Dr. Spriggs, as he's brought forward in budget last year that didn't make the budget, was developing a career services department at Gillette College. Right now, that work is vetted out to our academic advisors, but it is an area that we are going to have to build and be more robust with in the coming year or years. Whether it makes the budget this year, we'll need to look at it certainly for the future. It is a priority for Dr. Spriggs and the institution. I'm sorry.
And our community.
And our industry partners.
I believe that's it. Thank you. And if you have any other questions in your report, we have, that was in the packet, our additional information around some of the other indicators.
Trustees, does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask? Trustee
Yes.
Anderson.
Vice Chair Wasserberger, Mr. Humphries. What, on the matriculation rates, non-credit student enrollment, those kinds of things, there was academic year 24 and then academic year 24 actual. I'm sure you explained that tonight.
Sure. Vice Chair Wasserberger, Trustee Anderson, the matriculation metric is we look at students that were enrolled in Campbell County high schools in 1 credit in the spring. And then did they enroll the next fall in at least 1 credit? So we're looking at their matriculation into Campbell, or from the school district into the next fall.
And as we look at the graphs, columns for academic year 24, one just said academic year 24, the other one was academic 24 actual. What is the difference?
The actual is the number, the actual percentage compared to our goal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we were able to blend some of that data. We pull that typically in the summer. And so that's information that is part of one of the strategic priorities, looking at matriculation. Basically, are we getting students in our school district enrolling the next fall into the college? And we look at their graduation date because they could be juniors or sophomores, but we look at their graduation date of 24, how many of those students attended this past fall?
Thank you.
Great question.
Thank you, Trustee Anderson. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Spriggs. Thank you, Mr. Humphries, for the wonderful report. Information and good goal setting, so it's no we'll go on. All right, on to new business, spending authority. And Larson, would you like to come forward about the spending authority for the CNC machine?
Vice Chair Wasserberger and trustees, I don't have it in front of me, but there is a CNC machine. Did you? Thank you. And Tony, guys, do you want to talk about it or?
I think you're welcome to.
There'd be more.
Yeah.
Sure.
Normally I ask Travis to come in and he wasn't able to, so,
The amount with me,
And we
but you know
have
the
that here.
purpose.
but yes, the purpose is to bring us up to enough machines for our current cap as well. And it will enhance what we already have. So
It's gonna have
it will,
5 new workstations.
it'll increase it to 6. But it will be 4 industry standard machines, which we only have 3 right now. The other 2 are more hobbyist machines that are on the verge of their lifespan. They're just about wore out. So this will help increase the machine time for our students, which industry wants.
Okay, well, thank you.
So I apologize for not having these numbers at the top of my head, but it's 125,000 is up to the amount that we're looking to spend. And it's budgeted funds, not WIP. So it's operational funds that we'd like to spend for this.
All right, with that. Mrs.
Want a
Palmer,
motion or do you want questions?
Go ahead with the motion, please.
So, Madam Vice Chair, I would move to approve. In ours, it says 136, but Vice President Larson, you just said 125.
So 125 is what we had emailed back and forth, but I do see that there's a few other things added here that bring the total to 137,000.
There was a 5% increase because we did not purchase by the end of the month. February 28th was the cutoff, and then there was a 5% increase after that. So this is a brand new quote and the actual.
Must be those tariffs. So I would make a motion to approve up to 137,000. I'll change your motion slightly, up to 137 in budgeted funds for the purchase of a CNC vertical machine set. I second that.
Okay. It's been moved by trustee Palmer and seconded by trustee Day to spend up to $137,000 for this budgeted funds for the purchase of the CNC vertical machining center. Trustee Day.
And one other thing too, that the original price was 159, but there was a discount given through the schools, a school discount. So it dropped it down by another 15% to get it to the 136, 137,
Okay,
which was great. I was good to see a
thank
school
you.
discount.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Trustee Palmer.
So questions? Vice President Larson, Director Geis, I think I remember this, you had presented earlier in one of your reports that we were capped at the machine tool level because of the number or I guess the number of equipment, scope of equipment that we currently had. And so this will supplement what we already have. So this is an additional machine. Or is it a replacement machine?
It is an additional machine. And so it will bring us up to what our cap is set at. So I'll still be one CNC lathe short of what our cap is, so every student could be actually running the machine the entire class period.
Right, Madam Vice Chair. And do we have a waiting list for machine tool?
I do,
And may I ask how large that waiting list is?
I do not know because some of those are veterans and they will not, I don't have access to that.
Let me
So
ask you, let me ask it this way. If you had another machine beyond this one, could you up your cap? Could you fill it with the students? Do you think you could fill it with students?
I do. But I'm out of space and
My question, do you have enough room for another CNC? In addition to this one, looking at the future of expanding, do you have enough footprint in the current space?
it is,
It's pretty tight.
yes, it's very tight.
So are you comfortable with that?
Well,
I mean-
no, but it seems like there's gonna be some capital construction discussion as well, or something to make sure that you have not only the machinery, but also the space to operate that machinery safely.
Correct.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Trustee Anderson.
Vice Chair, Mr. Geist, do you need another lathe? Is that what you said that you're short of?
In addition, yes, eventually. But right now with what the cap set at and being able to, I'm only one instructor as well, so there's only so much curriculum I can get through in a semester. So. Yeah, that is the goal, to have enough machines on both sides for 6 students.
Thank you. Other discussion? If not, we have a motion on the floor. We'll go ahead and vote then, and all in favor, vote by saying aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, tenure approval, Dr. Overlander.
Vice Chair Wasserberger and trustees, today's an exciting day. This is the first opportunity that this Board of Trustees has to award tenure to faculty at Gillette College. This particular group of faculty received tenure at NWCCD, and they chose to go through a rigorous process at Gillette Community College District to receive tenure with the benefits associated with the Gillette College tenure process. And so you have before you 11 faculty members who have completed a rigorous process. And certainly Dr. Spriggs can add some additional information should you have questions, but the process began early in the fall, actually over the summer. The deans reviewed that. The vice president reviewed, as did I. And so the following faculty are up for tenure at Gillette Community College District. Mr. Bo Corkins, our math faculty, Joe Gingrich, diesel technology faculty, Rochelle Gingrich, nursing faculty, Liz Hunter, physics and engineering faculty, Rob Livingston, geology engineering faculty, Amanda Malurek, nursing faculty, Gwen Reed, nursing faculty, Megan Rourke, math faculty, Sherry Tomping, nursing faculty, Jared Vance, industrial electrical faculty, and Heather Wolford, nursing faculty. And so trustees, I request your approval to award tenure to these 11 faculty.
I so move.
Second.
It's been moved by trustee Anderson and trustee Williams with the second to approve for a tenure for those names that were just read aloud. Is there any discussion?
Even though they're not here, I think deserve an applause.
Dr. Spriggs, since we're under discussion, just anything that you feel motivated to add to this?
Sure, Vice Chair Wasserberger and trustees. It was a process that was a little different what they were used to, by all means. But it was also what I consider a participatory process that we continue to try to enhance this area too. So the faculty, it was brand new. I met with them. We went through the 5 particular areas. At times, they felt like this isn't a four-year institution, of course. And we did work through examples as to how, as an example, what scholarly means at a community college. One thing we didn't want to do is decrease some of the people that are out there and not recognize some of the work that they were doing. So there was multiple examples that were given under each of those particular 5 areas. We collected a group of individuals that voluntarily participated as the committee, as well as the registrar was part of this process. And as the president mentioned, it went through multiple stages. After that, we then had a collection of information as to how we can improve, starting with the Dean's Council. So as we're moving forward, the procedure may change a little bit to really try to shepherd that person through the first 3 years in order to ensure that they understand those areas as well as they're going along, that it's wrapped up as tight as possible by the time it does get to the president. So it's been a good experience. There will be probably another 8 or 10, honestly, because some sat back and said, let me see first before we do this. But I do believe it's part of not only our professional development zone, but also what our expectations are. That is consistent enhancement. And unfortunately, because the Sheridan was this, doesn't mean it's going to be that here. We're going to keep moving forward in that direction. And those actually that also volunteered, we have like 3 people that volunteered that we can use their tenure portfolio as examples for other people coming through. So it was a great experience. And even though some faculty may not think so, I'm sure they're going to feel blessed after the process is over.
It's okay to have expectations of who we are.
Yes.
So, all right, any other discussion?
Question, are they aware of this? So if I saw them on the street and could congratulate them, they wouldn't give me the deer in the headlight. What are you talking about? They would know that they had.
This is the final step of the process.
So I won't say
For
it.
this endorsement, yes.
All right. Are we ready for the vote? Oh.
I have, being that today in education, so much stress is implied on not only secondary, elementary, but also at the college level. And a lot of people are getting out of education because of the stress. And that's a concern that I have. As you read across the nation, whether it's large, college institutions or secondary institutions or elementary, we're really short of teachers and staff. So my question is, how much stress was on these 10 people who we went tenure with? Was there a lot of stress in the process?
Well, it's something new for them. So anything new is going to bring a level of tension. I can't really assess their stress level, but there were questions as I met with them to really explain what those different areas of scholarly and professional development and so forth, teaching effectiveness meant here relative to where they may have came from with tenure. But the evidence that they showed, sometimes you don't know until you start looking as to what you have been doing. So I think a lot of it was really until they understood that you already have this stuff. You just have to recognize, of course, stress is going to be up. It's us really looking at those indicators as to what those concepts meant, really. So, and the fact that we actually promote all these particular areas since they've been here, it was them just going out and saying, yeah, that's right, I did do this. Our professional development week, as an example, we have multiple faculty actually presenting to their peers there. That's part of that. Okay. So I don't think it was as it's always stressful to begin with until you understand. And when it's not the unknown anymore, then it's like some of these portfolios were amazing, really, as to how much, but it's a celebration also for them. And it's a chance for them to show us what they've been doing over the past half a decade or so.
Makes it very tangible. Yes, trustee Paul.
Madam Vice Chair, Dr. Strickland, I'm glad you used the word celebration, because this really is a celebration for these 10. It shows a true commitment on their part. And I really want to thank you too for your commitment to see this new tenure process through. And certainly as trustee Williams said, these individuals are all to be applauded. And please pass on our appreciation and our respect for these individuals. And we hope 10 more or 15 more come forward next year, and they just keep coming. But this is a celebration. And I think it's a great step forward.
Thank you.
Truly. Okay, are we ready for the vote? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Again, everything that trustee Palmer just said, in conclusion with that topic, but glad that their hard work now has a tangible outcome. And thank you to the institution and leadership for getting our faculty there. Good job on everyone's behalf. On to committee reports. We're going to start with WACD, trustee Smith and trustee Dade.
I think we're hoping for Aaron, but there's really nothing. We went through the legislation and that's really all we've been doing. We can ask questions.
It was a really good review. There were a lot of, a lot of bills that were coming through, and to see it every week. I think Erin did a phenomenal job for us with the weekly update. I loved, every week to see the updates and come through. I think she does a great job. Me being involved with another organization, I don't get that level of commitment and communication. That was really good for me to see from Erin.
I would agree. Yeah.
Vice Chair Wasserberger, just as a reminder, if you go to the WACT.org website under the advocacy tab, you can see all of Erin's legislative summaries. She does a weekly summary as well. So you can see the wrap up there. Also, please be reminded that the commission and WACT meet here on campus next month. Here in a couple of weeks. We did move that to a Wednesday, Thursday meeting, so we're not traveling on Good Friday. So those meetings will be up in the Pronghorn Center because we have MSHA refresher training happening in this building. There was not room here to hold, but those meetings are coming up and they'll be very helpful as well.
Thank you. On to the vote cheese report, trustee Anderson, trustee Day.
As the Gillette College representatives on the BOCES board, we realized that if not ever presented to the entire group of trustees, what goes on with BOCES. So I thought I'd start with just kind of an overview of what the BOCES budget looks like and what funds we get from BOCES and how we use them. And Mr. Wasserberger will be able to answer any questions you have because I'm pretty sure I can't. BOCES is the Board of Cooperative Higher Educational Services. The board is 3 members from the Campbell County School District Board of Trustees and 2 members from the college trustees. They assess a 1/2 mil levy to the county, and that comes out to about $2.7 something like that. The college district gets a block grant of $926,000 every year from BOCES. And then we have this year had an additional allocation of 1.3 million. And we will get about $370,000 in tuition and fees for the Pronghorn Advantage students. So that comes out to 2.596 million, which is, what did you tell me, 11% of the college budget. Those monies are all used for CTE programs, other than the tuition for the Pronghorn Advantage. The Campbell County School District also gets some grants for supplies for CTE programs or requests that don't meet the requirements for the Perkins grants. Grants provide a lot of funds for high school CTE programs and college programs as well, I believe. But for things that the CTE teachers in the school district need that don't meet Perkins requirements. OCHES provides that funding. It also pays for the foreign language assessment test that the dual language kids start taking in 7th grade. And then there are contract services with MSHA for high school kids taking MSHA certification and OSHA certification, with the hospital for CNA and EMT and phlebotomy courses. There's money for scholarships for the Pronghorn Drive program. And then there's some monies for special projects as well. In addition, as OCHES has anticipated that mill levy revenues will be decreasing in the future, the OCHES board has set aside a reserve fund for future CTE that is now at $1.8 million. So that's what OCHES is up to.
Trustee Dan.
In addition to that, at our last BOCHES meeting, we approved that for Gillette College, for the students here can apply and use the Pronghorn Drive program to receive their CDL, which is a huge advantage. I recently had one of my customers, his son was here in town and was looking at which school here in Gillette for a welding program am I gonna go to? And I said, hey, you need to, let's go to Gillette. And I called and had an ambassador meet us here. And that was one of the things that if you come to Gillette College, you can apply and your education, your CDL, it's a recruiting tool that I recently used. So.
Did it work?
I don't know yet. His dad was tickled. His dad's like, you're going here. So we'll see what he does. And then, and I'm looking at him as an intern, starting this summer. So, hopefully we can get him here to college, but that's one thing that anywhere else you're not going to be able to get. And through, OCHES, we're able to do that.
Definitely a huge community, important partner for us and your ambassadorship. Because sometimes those little gems will just, someone will realize that, this is what we have and hopefully that good news will unroll to somebody else.
Yeah, I was lucky his dad just said, hey, I'm coming to Gillette, and he's from Colstrip. And I said, we're coming down to look at the welding program. And I said, well, you need to come and look at another welding program.
Awesome.
Mr.
Mr.
Much more
Wassenberger.
affordable than that.
We are much more affordable. And there's them just right there is a $5,500 scholarship to get your CDL. So. Sorry.
Madam Chair, that's the first time you've ever called me Mr. Wassenberger in 22 years. But I would like to talk about the Pronghorn Advantage Scholarship. And we do have 22 students who will earn their associate's degree in May, if they all make it. And that will be a record. Last year we had 21. But we do give them this medal. So I will pass that around. And then also we give them my favorite Dr. Seuss book. And of the 22 students, I will write a short paragraph in each one of those, and they will receive that on graduation night. For the first time, I thought, I don't have any results of what these students thought of the program. And so I thought, I am going to do an exit interview with all 22. And I'm going to do that starting next week. And so I will sit down with them. I have 4 questions. And I will ask them those 4 questions and record those. And then we'll see if we can make any improvements on the program. When we talk about the CDL Pronghorn Drive program, we are starting to see a lot of traction. from our seniors this year. So you remember that that is a scholarship that they receive. And it is good for 1 year after graduation because of the age requirement. They have to be 18. And so we are going to meet with all the prospective CDL students on April 2nd in Wright. And the director of the CDL program, Gail, will go with me to Wright and we will meet with each one of those students. So that's kind of the report of Bochis, and thank you, Trustee Anderson, for your report.
Jeff, do you follow up on these kids that go out in the real world? Is there
Madam Chair,
mellow?
I don't.
You don't? Okay.
I would like to, but I think it just gets to be impossible. I will tell you that of the students, the student that has the highest amount of credit graduating, which was Therese Kubacher, she graduated with 76 credits. She sent me a wedding invitation the other day. So, but we do have 2 girls this year that will break that record. They'll have 78 credits. So as you know, the scholarship ends the day that they graduate from high school, not college, high school. And even if they have enough credits in December of their senior year, which 3 of them did, I tell them I will pay for that next semester. You can take up to 16 credits. So I try to keep them as busy as I can. So that's the report from Bochis. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Madam Vice Chair, this is Mr. Wasserberg, Director Wasserberger. So just a brief history on Bochis, because we've had a Bochis agreement with Gillette campus, with Gillette College now for how many years?
It started in 1983 and it's been almost word for word, the same MOU every year. And so the guarantee from Bochis is that we will give the college $925,000 guaranteed. And then after that, on top of it is what's left over after we run the various programs that we have. And quite frankly, the original secretary, that was, if you remember way back when, that was Dr. Higdon and Dr. Winters, but the secretary was Linda Moore, and it's still Linda Moore.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's pretty amazing that someone could do it for that long.
It just, I guess, thank you for that. Bochis has meant so much to this community and to this college over those 42 plus years now. I just thank you because you made such a difference in young people's lives, but also in the community as a whole. So thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Wasserberger. Mr. Wasserberger, I would just offer, as you get ready to do your survey, our institutional researcher would be happy to help you with that and the questions, because that evidence will be and can be used for our outcomes criterion for accreditation. So he'd be happy to help if you need help. I just offer those services to you, but thank you for all that you do. And it should also be noted, following up with Trustee Palmer, the program has grown substantially under Director Wasserberger's direction and under his work. So the program continues to grow and see even more success. So.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I think the numbers alone, just the impact in the recent years are just out. It's just incredible how many students. Because I look back when my children graduated and gosh, I sure would have had them at Gillette campus if these things were to the point of operation and implementation that they are now. So not only do I want you for the money you don't have, Jeff, but you know, we like having you and wanting your money as a group as well. So thank you.
There's some really good about that over breakfast.
Okay. For our board education, and Trustee Smith apparently has offered to do that this month. So I
Yes.
appreciate you and I
Since-
look forward to have what you have to share.
Since Chairman McGrath had to be gone, I volunteered to do this. If I would have known Bochis was gonna be so informational, I would have skipped it. But anyway, it's gonna be quick and high altitude, but I've decided, we had an incident a couple weeks ago on the basketball court with Casper. And I just, everybody was asking me questions, like, why did we report? How come we had to report? And I thought, just be good. So I sat down with the AD and got the bylaws of the NJCAA and some of their policies. And to start out with, there's of course the athletes, and then there's non-collegiate, and then it gets into those deep stuff. But anyway, once it happened, everybody said, well, the game was over. Well, it truly wasn't over. The refs decided not to continue on. They were done. But the rules still apply because you're still representing your college and you're still on the field of play. So that question got answered to me. And then they have rules for all kinds, and we fell into several of them. We had ejections. We had what they said violent behavior, but that's just shoving. It's not fisticuffs but it's shoving. So that put us into that. And that's where we started getting the ejections and the penalties. It also goes into by an act in which any player or non-game management personnel leave the pitch. We had that happen, both teams. And then, so we get on into more of it. And why didn't we report it? It was after the game. We could have not reported it, but if someone on watching it somewhere decided to report it, there's huge penalties. If we fail to report it, it doubles penalties. So instead of 2 games, you get 4. Plus now the coach, even if he wasn't involved, he gets added into those suspensions. So, and then it also, if it's flagrant enough, it could go against our points in the NJCAA, which we were happy that they let us off without any probation, let us back into the league. It would have worked against us next time we had something happen. So it had to be reported. And it's all lied out here for failure and the doubling, and it lines up the suspension. And when you report, it's multi-letters. I'm sure you wrote one. We had anybody with the institution that was there needed to write one. Anybody like Chairman McGrath had to write one. And then anybody that wanted a witness could write it. And then they had to send in film that they all reviewed, and with the other ADs, with Casper's AD, and I'm sure their president was involved. And, it's just rules. I can guarantee you our AD has spoken with all the coaches and all the players, all of our athletes, on making sure this doesn't happen again. We hope. So, thank you.
Chair Wasserberger, I would add to Trustee Smith's review of that situation. I was innocently in Fargo, Moorhead, North Dakota, holding my new grandbaby. So I was not in the arena when it happened. But as soon as we got word, President Cosine from Casper and I were on the phone. I was also on the phone with Chris Parker, the president of the NJCAA, stepping through what happened. We also received a very nice summary and a very nice step through from legal counsel from the NJCAA explaining we did have the opportunity to appeal. It would have been $1,000 appeal. That happened on the sanction letters came out on Thursday. The appeal board wouldn't have met till the following Thursday. And the review of the information and the review of the sanctions likely would not have been overturned. And so it really was of no use to us to appeal. And President Cosine agreed. We both agreed that we'll serve our sanctions and move forward. Simultaneously, our team did take court and they did win with players down, with substitute players in who had to prove eligibility. And by the way, the soccer player who came up is Frank Stevenson's grandson. Oh, so it made it even more special when I found that out. But so I think that was a really great review of that situation, and we'll continue to work on making sure bylaws and rules as we do are continued to be supported and understood by all members involved with our organization.
And also, if we had failed and they did find out about it, any games we had played from then to the time they made aware of it, we forfeited. So we did the right thing, what I'm saying.
I had some, I was sitting with Mike Curry. And in the middle of the fourth quarter, I said, Mike, we're gonna have issues after this game. And we did have issues. And Rogers jumped in and helped me out if we would. Rogers officiated for tons of years. I officiated for tons of years. And I'm not sure who designates our officials. I know it's not local. There is a person somewhere,
There's an assigner.
Assigner.
That assigns.
and I'm not sure why he assigned this one official who had very little experience in the JC College basketball officiating. And you could tell on the court that he didn't have a lot of confidence. And the other officials were trying to carry him to some degree. And that's hard to do when you have a game like this. And so to some degree, I blame the situation on the assigner of this particular one official. And
Chair, Vice Chair, I'm going to ask that Roger, he's conflicted because his son was a ref that night. So Roger does not need to, should not engage in this conversation. But the assigners are assigned by the region, so.
And I don't want to interrupt you, because I'm an official too, not a basketball, but you know, another sport that's close and dear to your heart. And I will say this, that I think this is a perfect time to say, we don't have enough officials. Every sport in this country is short officials, whether it be basketball, whether it be football, whether it be volleyball, whether it be, and I don't know about rodeo, but I know for soccer, swimming, we do not have enough officials. And so sometimes as an assigner, you don't have a choice. You have a body. And that individual is willing to step in, whether or not their qualifications are as one personal individual to another, up to what they should have been. They are a certified official, and I will say that regardless, we need more officials in this country. So anybody in this room who would like to step up and become an official, get a hold of me. I'll find out who you need to talk to if it's a particular sport other than the one I officiate. But we need more officials and we need more individuals and young people that are willing to come up and become the officials. Because as you can tell by my hair, I've officiated many, many years and there's not many more left. So.
Well, the other interesting piece that if you were at any of the games for the Region 9 tournament, there were officials who were not reffing that were evaluating. And so whether or not they were officially evaluating, but there were refs on the side of the court that weren't reffing. They weren't dressed as refs, but they were there. And I make an assumption that they were doing some evaluations, assessments.
Well, just kind of to get everybody's attention back on for board education, I think that was really a great thing for you to cover, obviously, passion surrounding the whole topic, but we probably have spent enough time on that. So anyway, thank you so much. We're on to public comments. I did not see any. As I guess I'm going to take this opportunity to give you a health tip for a public comment. We have pertussis in our community that's active. We have a hospitalization of a very small child. So if you've not had, if you believe you want to protect yourself and others, you can get a immunization at the public health on Wednesdays. But most of us in the room, if you've not had that shot, especially as a grandparent in the last 5 years now is the recommendation since it's active in our community. 2 years ago, they were saying 10 within that time frame. Then you probably really need to be vaccinated. So that is your free health tip.
I highly recommend public health nurse scrub to give you your protest.
And if you're born at a certain period of time, your measles vaccination may or may not be good. And so, as one person who was born in that time period, public health offers that per price. But it's probably well worth it because measles is on an outbreak across this country again.
Yes.
And so
It just
if
hasn't
you
gone
have
up
to
yet.
have a booster, I think probably would be well worth the investment of getting a booster.
Well, let me share about the forties. If you went to elementary school or junior high school and you had the measles, you wanted to share it with everybody else.
And you're good.
Yeah, and we're good.
You're good.
I'm good too.
You know, we're good. I mean, everybody got the measles. That was just, and chickenpox. That's what it was.
And moms.
And
And
mums.
moms, yeah. It's just the way it was.
Much more dangerous as an
But see,
adult.
that's back when we were all stronger. We were all very educated and we were all good looking.
They got that.
That was that period of time.
Well, just food for fodder for everybody. Okay, with that, it looks like executive session is next on our agenda. No action will be taken for anybody who is wanting to know that information or stay around for an announcement. But is there a motion to go into executive session?
Second.
Homer and Williams made the motion. All in favor, say aye. Discussion, okay, we go into executive session.
Yeah. you should
Yes.
take a break.
Yeah, we'll take a 5 minute, 10 minute, 5 minute break.
Five minutes.
Yeah.